The Institute for Gender and Development Studies hosted a public forum on the Marriage Acts in commemoration of the International Day of the Girl Child. In the opening remarks, the founder and executive director of the Women's Institute for Alternative Development said, "The time has come for us to protect children through legislation." Dion Batiste has more.
Research shows that 60% of young children have been sexually active by the time they have reached age 16. This according to Donna Da Costa Martinez, co-chair of the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition. She notes that existing laws allow parents to marry off boys from the age of 14 and girls as young as 12 years old. Mistress Da Costa Martinez concedes that legislative reform is needed, even as she acknowledges a marked decrease in the number of sexually active children who seek reproductive care since the age of consent changed from age 16 to 18.
What we have done is opened up a large cohort of young people who are sexually active and will not approach healthcare services for the services that they need as it relates to contraception and so on. And this is because they face prosecution if they fall outside of the age exceptions provided at Section 20 of the Children Act 2012, and that they are also liable to be reported to the police by those who are mandated to report sexual offenses against minors under the Sexual Offences Act, including doctors, nurses, teachers, and employers.
She says these amendments have limited the support that the Family Planning Association can offer to sexually active children.
We really have to think very seriously about the implications of the various pieces of legislation on young people, their ability to access sexual and reproductive health services, and also on the people who provide the services.
Mistress Da Costa Martinez notes that the medical chief of staff called for increased education and distribution of contraceptives after 74 girls under the age of 14 gave birth at the Port of Spain General Hospital in 2015. She criticizes the response given by the education minister, saying he seemed to be more concerned with votes than he was with the well-being of our nation's youth.
The Minister of Education stated in The Guardian of 13th of May 2016, "We know that there is a problem of sexual activity among our school children. We cannot hide the fact." So why the hypocrisy? Why the powerlessness to protect our girls and boys? Why the fear to challenge the status quo?
The co-chair of the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition says our reproductive health policy has been sidelined by policy drafters because they take issue with the language used therein. She says sex and sexuality are normal facets of our being and calls on the Ministry of Education to implement age-appropriate sex education at primary and secondary schools across the nation. Dion Batiste, C News.
Attorney at law and co-director of feminist non-profit group Womantra, Khadija Sinanan, says one area of key legislative amendment that's needed is the standardization of marriageable age to 18. She says this will complement the recently amended age of consent in the Children's Act. Ms. Sinanan notes that data provided by the Office of the Attorney General on underage marriage is inconclusive.
We have a lot of data, which is what we use to develop these very nice slides, and they feature the ages of the girls. We're grateful for the data from the Office of the Attorney General, but they don't actually indicate the ages of the men. I'm not sure why.
She says it's insane that consultation on this issue has been ongoing for such a long time. She thinks we need to hold government to its promise to see that all these conversations translate into the relevant action. Responding to concerns raised at today's open forum, representative from the Office of the Attorney General Angela Moore says the bill is being drafted. Mrs. Moore says any legislation which transitions from one position to another requires holistic, often lengthy consultations.
You're going to have people in transition, persons who are already married, what happens to them? The whole thing about emancipation. Some children who are married may have accumulated property rights. Do they lose them? What happens? So these are issues when we are drafting legislation that we have to be continually thinking about and provide for
She remained tight-lipped on the details of the bill, but did say, however, that the standardization of age and the implementation of penalties have been given serious consideration.